We're doing quite well on time. So we have our third panelist now. We're very lucky to have Bidyut Kumar Basu with us. He has extensive experience working in the private sector, which has been the driving sector in this industry. Bidyut Kumar Basu has worked in Grameenphone, Robi, Telenor, and in leading positions for many, many years. And I'm very excited that he's here to share some insights with us and reflect on what he's heard so far. Thank you.
So, thank you for inviting me here. But when I was included in the list of panelists, then I was thinking, why am I here? But after listening to the discussion so far and looking at the data presented, I feel that my being here, the value have been achieved more than whatever I can think of. So thank you for different topics presented here, and also for being with us together. I have worked in Grameenphone and Robi. Yes, you're right. I have been part of setting up Vikas 2 from Robi. I was trying to assist on that. But now I work in an NGO, MFI, which is Uddipan. And during the COVID, I have joined in December 2019. So I just completed 3 years. And I think this is a fascinating journey to work with people being there, even in the hardship of COVID. We have expanded significantly during this period. We have expanded in terms of reach. We are, for example, we have moved from 300 branches to 1,000 branches. We have moved from $70–80 million of outstanding to the customer to the around 200 million. But more importantly, in terms of reaching out to the families, we are almost reaching out to 1 million families of our members, but there are a significant number of would-be members where we go with different other services like medical services and others. So in this transformation, what I tried to use from my previous experiences, the digitalization is one of the delivery mechanism. So I thought of doing that a little later after understanding the industry and the sector, because this is a sector developed over 50 years. And I'm coming from a completely different spectrum of the services. But COVID really didn't allow me to have that time. So we had to keep going. So we had to move into the digitizations. I first started with the team that, okay, you go back to your base, don't go out, follow the protocol approved by the government. But why don't we reach out to the people, all our members, if we can just call them? And if we distribute the members among all employees, then its call is not so significant, just few hundred each. First day, we have recognized that our database is not correct. The key data is the mobile number. And the mobile number is not correct, kept in the system for 30 years. So I'm sure same would be the experiences of most of the NGOs we have now. But they would be also finding a way to fix it. We got a way to fix it. And now we have very good accuracy level. Not 100%, but at least 60–65% for sure is correct. And there are, every day is a kind of increase of the percentage of correct mobile number. So if the mobile number is not correct, none of this initiative will be correct. Then we have also gained one more insight, that is people in our surroundings, they thought the one sure shot intervention of the COVID should be to give relief. Interestingly, that was nullified by that direct research of the customers, from the customers. They didn't want relief because I think as a country, as a nation, as individual, we have moved beyond that relief mindset. Rather, the most of the question was, if I fail to pay on time, as we are not allowed to move out, would I be kind of marked negatively so that I don't get the fund again? So she was more concerned about the status of as a borrower. Then we said, no, that will not be. And on top, if you need, you can use the fund you have to survive. We will try to refinance whenever the situations get better. And we didn't have to refinance much. They kind of themselves protected. Rather, they helped us back by providing the money any way possible. And that's where the presentation from Sania connects to the fact what we have faced here is Bikash or any other MFS. Yeah. Can I send the money through the MFS? So that's how the digital activities grown a lot in Bangladesh. We have tried to get that from almost from 2009, but the adoption rate was not very high. But when it was forced by the situation, the adoption rate went very high. But when the COVID situation improved, then the adoption rate also fallen down, not to the previous level, but somewhat. Here comes the BIGD. And again, thank you for inviting me. I was reading through your material. I love the first priority you have projected there on the first page. That is 5 projects, DFS coaching, training, or technical assistance. When we move from commercial perspective or from result perspective too much in our head, we move from imposition. We don't really look at how people are adopting it. We go based on the set of information or learning we have. We don't really validate how they're thinking of it. I'll connect that with one of our experiences. So in terms of adoption, if you look at the registered base, of course, the mobile penetration maxed, that means crossed the 100% of the population because we have the multi-SIMmer. Almost 15, 20 or 25% people have different SIM card in the same name. So that's how the total number is more than 100, but still there are less real user. The same thing happened on the or mobile money system. If you look at the official data, it's 100 million. So it's way than official population data we have. But that is registration only. But if we look at daily usage, this is something daily usage. We do use our money every day. So then it should have been used every day, even 1 taka, 1 cent to a few dollar transaction. We don't. Why? Because possibly we have overbranded the P2P transfer. If you remember the mobile, the GSM, the Grameen phone, till when that came, we used to market one brand, Nokia. Nokia is a heavy phone. That's it. It's a kind of, that's 1 to 5 years, but people still carry the love for Nokia as a brand. So it's a kind of early adoption. So with the concept of anything new and whatever the feature comes in first, maybe that somewhere remain in our heart. So maybe that's what the research, we should have a research kind of BIGD and others are doing, and we should get a kind of reorientation on it. So DFS still now, I think, fully focused on P2P. That is one of the answer to your last page or last page to last page. That is the real adoption of mobile finance or mobile money has not happened in terms of transaction. So if I do not use the money through the DFS, so who will pull me to have the money through the DFS? So that pulling factor is not here. I want to express my gratitude to our former governor, Dr. Atiu Rahman sir. So who had a very good role in giving the start of this DFS. We need, for a new child, for a family, for a new family, we need guardians. So for an industry, we need guardian too, to grow as an industry and then to connect with other industry. So this connecting with other industry as a telecom, I feel, I worked in telecom for 20 years. I feel we failed significantly because telecom grown so fast, so much of a growth on the bottom line. So the arrogance, like arrogance in individual, arrogance in the industry comes in, and that plays a blocking role in the eye. What potential we are not looking at. The charging for call or charging for connectivity, still the main revenue. Why? Why the heck we can't see beyond that? That getting in the boat and going or on the other side is free, but whatever you do on the boat, that can be chargeable. You can share from the value you create. Then you don't have to hang around with this $3 to $5 business. You can do much more than that. The same way, when DFS grown, DFS has grown significantly, very impressive, but still remaining within that secured money, the money transfer related business. But what about the rest? What about the retail activities? What is the retail transaction per people, per individual we do in Bangladesh per day? Is it 2? Then we have 34. So 234 million transactions. What percentage of that in cash and what percentage of that in our mobile finance? So I think that's where we have a way to go. If I connect that with our industry, my recent love, that MFI, this is a significant platform to connect together because 65% of the population is already connected. If you look at the volume of the loan given to the individual, it's humongous. It's only BRAC, Grameen Bank, Asha. So Grameen Bank is an individual, they have the act, but then Asha and others, if you see what is the outstanding figure, 20,000 crore, 22,000 crore taka. And what is the savings from the customer? 50% of that is the savings, even without nano savings. Now, we are adopting nano savings. We are adopting nano loans. What is the best case for it? Best case for it on the bottom of the pyramid. Best case of it is the people on the rural space where we are working with. Why? Because they are already used with a smaller credit, smaller deposit. Not the bank account holders are used to with that. The first experiment started with IDFC. Second experiment started with Citibank. Very good. We have tested with the properly regulated industry. But how and when we can take it to the bottom? Our readiness is not only DFS fault. It's also our readiness to adopt that. Are we ready? Are we digitalized? We have digitalized in terms of MFI. We have digitalized in terms of connecting bKash and other DFS. And now we have added a new element, interactive voice response. IVR is a artificial intelligence based. For every transaction, we are providing confirmation. by voice because they understand their language. But so not everybody can read. So even in local dialect, we are providing that. When we started giving that, the first resistance comes from the team. For DFS, first resistance comes from the team. Why? Because they're used to it certain kind. Even it is easier, even it is faster, still they will try to resist. That is, onus on you is to prove that it works. So in last 8-9 months effort, we have been able to only reach 7% of our transactions are being covered by bKash, but it's growing every month 1%. I'm sure when this percentage goes up to 25, then the adoption rate per month would be faster because then they know it is working. And we will also know how people are using that. With this new solution, AI-based solution, Hisha, which is a Japan and Bangladesh joint venture, they have made it. When we have proposed to our team and to the members in our centers, we see the members are adapting faster. So technological intervention, the adverse behavior is more in the team on the ground than the ultimate people. Maybe they have got used to, but also they have got used to with some power. There is a small power. The power is when they hand over the money or they receive the money from the end user, temporarily, that credit officer is a powerful person financially for a day or 2 or 3. And if he can somehow extend the days, how many days he can keep that money in his pocket, that's the kind of business case for him. But if we reduce that, we reduce the chances to lose that money. If we bring the microfinance automation together with DFS, together with the interactive voice response-based confirmation that we have received your payment, is everything can be done within a day. Real time. And then if the customer says that I have no complaint, I'm happy, I want that, that's how it becomes win-win. So I think you have opened a lot of my eyes. And I think as an industry, as a multiple industries together, we need to open our mind and eyes and find a way what can be most customer-friendly proposition whenever there is no harm in doing or starting something. But when we have taken that to the people, we should be connecting with the people more and more and learn from the researchers that what are actually they saying. Because when we push things, we are biased. We need to make ourselves unbiased and then connect our best practices and go together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're a little over time, but I think this is an interesting enough discussion. We're right at the moment where, I'm sure there are lots of questions. We've had 3 very, very thought-intriguing interventions from our panelists. So I'd like to open the floor now. If there's anyone in the room to ask questions to the main speakers and also the panelists, you're welcome to do that now. And then we'll go maybe look at some online questions if there are any. Yes, please. And please introduce yourself briefly and then ask a question.
Hi, my name is Shariar. I'm representing Keymakers Consulting, which is a private research firm. Thank you. That was an intriguing discussion. I was very happy to see the point on the cultural barriers for holding an account and interacting with MFS, because some of our experience in the sector is also similar. We work for some of the private sector companies that do MFS. 2 things that we have noticed, and I'd just like to reconfirm whether those have also surfaced in these studies that you have mentioned. One was the barrier of the interface. So some of the interfaces for our DFS and MFS systems are quite clumsy, quite English heavy, and not very user friendly. And that becomes a real barrier when we go to the rural consumers, women, people with, primary level or secondary level education, etc. Whether you have also seen that is something that I'm curious about. The other thing is about more about semantics. So you'd notice that most of the terminology are, very difficult for our people to understand. If you think about how we talk about DFS or MFS, we talk about cash in, cash out, etc. And some of the terminology are even more difficult. So people do not understand those, and therefore they're quite hesitant to, regularly interact with those. So I just wanted to know whether these are also coming up as issues and whether some of these are already being acted upon. Thank you.
A question for any specific speaker, or?
I think more, it's open, but more towards, Ms. Sanya Ansar and Dr. Hawk.
Should we take a couple more questions? Yeah, let's take a few questions first. Yes.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Rakib Avi. I'm with BRAC. So all of that discussion is super useful for me as well. One specific question for Ms. Sania Ansar. In terms of increasing uptake of savings and loan products in other similar markets, are there any examples which could work for Bangladesh? And that's one specific question, because we're seeing that there is stagnation. It's reaching 76%, but how do we reach the last sort of 20-25%? And another question towards the We Define team, is there any plan in terms of having financial product design as part of the priority area as well for research? Like what sort of products could work in terms of designing more equitable savings products for women or other loan products? Thank you.
Thank you. That question. Maybe one more person from the room. We have some from online, but let's finish those who are in the room first. Anyone else? No? Okay, so let me see how many questions we have here.
Hello, I'm Farhana Kabir, Research Associate at BIGD. So my question is to Ms. Sania. You mentioned that in your data, it has come up that there's virtually no use of merchant accounts in Bangladesh. So could you elaborate on that? Because is your data more rural-based or more urban-based? Because in Dhaka, we see merchant accounts being used every day in almost all sectors. So I was curious about that. Thank you.
There are no other questions from the room. We have one question from online from Muhammad Mubassir Rahman. And I believe this question will go to Shafaq Bhai and also maybe Bidyut Bhai on how can market competition in the MFS space help in the financial inclusion of the unbanked? And I would like to add also, I'm also curious about how would you propose to increase competition in this sector? And he also adds, assuming that reaching out to the unbanked population is investment heavy because of their low digital financial literacy and their reluctance to adopt new technology. So in this context, how would you address the issue of competition? If that's the question. So where should we start? Let's start with you.
Thank you. I think I would answer this question as the type of challenges that we have seen while talking to the rural people especially, and also to the people who are in the slum, which is related to mostly digital literacy. Because we never went and asked them about MFS or MFI. We just asked them that whether you go to bank, then whether you have bank account, and then no, we don't have any. Many people ask that, okay, we don't have any money, so we don't go to the bank. Then if we dig up a little bit, then whether you use any of the you use your phone to make any payment or to pay the bill, then sometimes they're also not very clear. So then often we have to show the Bikash symbol or something like that, and then they understand what we are talking about. But interestingly, it depends, like when we are looking at the younger generation, many of them, at least they know about this Bikash, Rocket, Nogo, this type of payment. So that is something like there is also issues related to the age, which is quite obvious. So over time, and also income and education level. And of course, there are gender differences as well. But over time, with some education, and especially to the younger generation, these problem related to the interface, problem related to technology, this is a little bit reducing. And we are expecting that if we can provide more training, make the products more easy, more user-friendly, that will help to reduce the gap more. So that is what we think. Yeah. I think there are 3 questions.
No, thank you. Great questions. And I think a lot of the panelists here obviously have the field level or the country level experience to expound more on that, just like Dr. Haq did just now. But maybe I can bring in an example from sub-Saharan Africa. So, I mean, I know in the presentation here, I talked more about the challenges for the unbanked, or when we talk about like the lack of confidence among the unbanked to use services or financial services, I think that speaks to some of the challenges that they think that they will experience with the interface as well, or just the overall like features of how a smartphone would work or how a payment system over a mobile would work. So we introduced a version of that question in sub-Saharan Africa, which you may know is one of the pioneers of mobile financial services, and we've seen it grow tremendously over the last few years. And we find that, and in that group, we asked those who actually have a mobile money account and are using mobile money services, whether they need the help of an agent or a friend to use their phone. And shockingly, about a third of them actually say yes, they need help, which means that the challenges, even in a region where it is so prevalent and common and a lot of payments are already being made, those challenges do exist and will continue to exist. So as our last panelist was also talking about this, there needs to be a constant rechecking and a reevaluation of what the consumer is using and what the needs are at the time to understand. And again, as Dr. Haq also answered, I think there are a lot of gaps in this data also. So always think going forward with the idea that even in the sub-Saharan African data, we find that women were more likely to report these challenges. It's poor who are more likely to report these challenges. So the traditional underserved groups are also more disadvantaged when they're using these. So I think with that, maybe the question on formal saving products, it's a challenge. And I think one of the points that I also made in the slide is there is an appetite for saving and people are saving, but they're not saving in ways that are formalized, right? So there are 2 gaps. One, there's a gap that's coming from the supply side. Maybe the right kind of saving products are not being offered, right? So there are a lot of countries where formal savings has really picked up. And I think East Asian Pacific countries are some of the biggest examples, such as Malaysia, China. And when the formal savings are high, some of the correlates or some of the things that you see that are being picked up or also observed when formal savings are high in the country is that people are more resilient. They understand that they need to put away money. They need to like have some sort of fund set aside for old age. And I think so those kind of cultural aspects also play a role. But I think at the same time, the right kind of products, so low denomination saving products were being offered, or the right kind of informal saving products were offered. So for example, a lot of the people, especially in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, use informal saving groups. So a group of women will save within their community, which means they have the ability to set aside the funds, but no one is providing them with the right kind of, or the efficient and the safe kind of way to channel those funds. And I think maybe Kim can also answer about some of this, because I think there are a lot of initiatives that have centered around capitalizing or using the informal saving groups as a way or as a last mile to formalize them in a way that helps the savers. And then for merchant accounts, so the data is nationally representative, and it is a combination of all the different regions of the country. And I think based on this data, there may be, if you dig deeper into the data and look at urban, rural, and then look at urban rich versus rural, rural, I think you'll see big gaps in those where some of these like issues will start to emerge in terms of how common merchant payments may be. We've seen for other countries, for example, in Latin America and the Caribbean, we've seen that the data there actually connects to a supply side uptake or increase in the volume of merchant payment transactions. So we know in some countries where, and again, I have to mention, this is a perception-based data, right? So this is people responding. So while we may see at a store or a merchant that these payments exist, I think what really matters in this survey, at least for us, is that people also feel or perceive that they were able to make a digital merchant payment. So anyway, connecting the 2 points, I think it really depends on the national average or the national statistic of where a digital merchant payment was being made or used. But it could be high or low depending on how people perceived it.
Thank you. Does that? Yes, please.
I think we can take one case for that. For example, we have 51% savings collected from the customer of whatever the loan size we provide to the customer. So one group of people are providing savings with us, keeping savings with us, and then another group of people are taking the loan. And that is based on almost 93% manual process still. So if we can adopt the MFS and other solutions together in a way that people feel comfortable to use and secured to use, this can only enhance. For example, instead of 200 taka or 1,000 taka savings ticket, then we can convert into even a few cent savings ticket. But few cents from one person can be a huge money if that is from 20 million people or 30 million people. The whole dynamics can be changed. So I think there are plenty to innovate if we listen to the customer properly. But we don't need to be really worried because we have done the hardest part of it, meaning reaching to every house, reaching to people. So even by P2P transfer, or just having one transaction in a month, at least we have got some light there. Now we have to make sure that everybody uses it and everybody uses it for day-to-day activities, details. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Shahadbhai, do you want to take the question on competition?
Thank you. So I try to be put very realistic way. Just to think about before Grameen phone, line phone is the option. When in marketplace, Grameen is coming. Before that, you see other phone companies is there, but change maker is Grameen because of regulation and the whole attitude, investment. So it is matter. When you create the ecosystem more competitive, then it works. Another television, you see. So BTV, and just you see in private sector, it makes a different ballgame. I will be very much particularly MFI. It is a question of investment to digitizing the whole system. Who invests that? That is the question. I set an example from social safety net. So when government interested to make it competitive, because it is questions of choice, X, Y, Z, I can select any MFS industry, MFS operator. But if you change, so already there is an investment. So you see, to open a single accounts, KYC and other thing, $2 is expense. So that $2 who invest? So ecosystem, create the whole ecosystem is very much crucial. It is, so when we go to the agent is the investor, don't forget it. It is a e-money, he invests that money. So invest of return is very much crucial of that industry. We never be forgotten. So reduce the cost. It is very much populistic, political jargon. So return of investment, you must be calculated return of investment. So you see distributed the same thing. So Uddipon case, I saw other case also. So it is beginning from COVID particularly, but still now industry is not ready. I give a very specific questions for you and information for you. Grameen Bank. So whole Grameen Bank data maintaining by the Grameen communication. So Grameen Bank governs by the government entity now, and Grameen Bank subsidiary, it is controlled by others. So political question is there. And for that reason, Grameen Bank is not digitizing. So that kind of thing in our society sometimes makes obstacle. So last, Grameen Phone start with a very small initiative. Only phone, we can now don't remember. I facilitate that study and publish that study. So don't forget it. So if market works, competition is there, so people change their own way. So opportunity created by MFS industry already. We have almost 12 years experience, and all the giant of the investor, they're coming here. That is our opportunity. We need to be put our effort, particularly nothing's not to be interfere more. Pro people regulation is very much important. Bidyut bhai আতির ভাইয়ের কথা বললেন, আতির ভাইকে একটা টেক্সট করেছিলেন প্রধানমন্ত্রী যে ওই গভর্নরের উনি প্রায় বলেন, এখানেও বলেছেন, সেই সময় আমি ছিলাম, কামালও ছিল, যে আতির ভাইকে প্রাইম মিনিস্টারকে টেক্সট করেছিল এই কথা বলে যে গরিব মানুষের জন্য কিছু করতে বলেন। আমিও কিন্তু এই জার্নিতে আতির ভাইয়ের সাথে ছিলাম বলেই এই কথাগুলো জানি। এখানে কিন্তু ওই জিনিসটা খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট এন্ড অফ দ্য ডে, এবং বাংলাদেশে সেই জিনিসটি এখনো আছে। কিন্তু আমি যেটা দেখছি, বিদ্যুৎ ভাই অনেক বললেন যে এই ডিজিটাইজেশনের ক্ষতিগ্রস্ত হয়ে যাবে ছোট ছোট এনজিও গুলো, কিন্তু তারা ওটা পারবে না। সো লাস্ট মাইলেজে কিন্তু পৌঁছানোটার জন্য এখনো কিন্তু মাইক্রো ফাইন্যান্সের প্রয়োজন আছে। এই সবগুলো বিবেচনা করে ইনক্লুসিভ ফাইন্যান্সিং বিষয়টাকে দেখতে হবে, এবং এ ধরনের আলোচনাগুলো খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট আমি সেই দিক থেকে মনে করি। and particularly women segment, your initiative is very much good. I just request one issue, that is social safety net. We need to be at social safety net because public money investment need to be monitored. Social monitoring is very much important because digitizing is not enough. We look back again and again to repair the pilferage system. কারণ ডিজিটাইজেশনও কিন্তু পিলফারেজের সুযোগগুলো হবে। তো সেখানে আমাদের যেহেতু নিয়ত খারাপ, সেখানে কিন্তু আমাদের সোশ্যাল মনিটরিং এর জায়গা থেকে জিনিসটা রাখতে হবে। ধন্যবাদ।
Kim, do you want to
That's the end of the redefined procedure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. I think it's really pertinent and gets at the ethos of why we define a structure the way that it is. I think the short answer is going to sound pessimistic, but no, we are not set up to support product research, product design, market research, etc. However, what we are aiming to do in all of our projects is finance rigorous academic research with policy relevance. And I think we do this in three different ways. By procuring research that examines specific causal mechanisms, we're really looking at the specific interplay between DFS and we, and why do these two inform one another, and in what ways. Two, we are really supportive of mixed methods research, and that's largely because there's a lot of critique around randomized control trials, especially as being a black box. They measure these impacts. We have these fantastic impact estimates, but we don't know why, and we can't explain how these translate to product design. So qualitative research in tandem with rigorous quant research is one way in which we can start to answer some of those questions of why do we see what we see. And lastly, in all of our projects, we seek to procure research where our researchers have very strong relationships with relevant implementers. And we do that in a variety of ways when we're looking at different proposals. But as I think, our Bangladesh portfolio really speaks for itself, the researchers are so deeply ingrained with the implementers that the product designs that they're iterating on really are meant to be executed at scale, assuming they do work. So the direct answer is no, because it's simply not our mandate. However, we do aim to have practical relevance with all of our studies.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we have another comment on competition. Just a minute.
Yeah, if I have noted it right, there was one more element in the competition. The competition per se is that Bikash, Rocket, Nogod, like that. If there are new players coming in, what and how to work, especially in the rural space. Indicated at the beginning that there have been a lot of licenses. I can't remember the exact number, 27, sir? Yeah, 27 licenses were issued, but that's most to the existing bank. So bank-led model within the bank. So that has some benefit because then the existing goodwill can be utilized of the bank, reliability, but also banking as an industry focuses on the bigger transactions, bigger clients. And this is a very small transactions and volume game, lot of customers. So within a formal bank, how one new business unit or division enriches, that may have some challenges. Maybe that because of that reason, that model hasn't been so successful yet. But if we look at independent companies like Bikash and also Nogod even, they are new, but still they are making
it is a subsidiary, no?
Subsidiary, right? So they have their management. That's another way to manage it. So if you look at going to the field, maybe a new or existing operation, they can learn from whatever good things have been happening so far. Battery issue, maybe. Can I have that one? Is that one working? Yeah. So if we look at the opportunities, initially, the DFS, they've gone through the corporate route. So if they can have one customer, one decision maker, and that can impose on a significant number of users. For example, garments, of course, but then there is not real individual empowerment that I like the service, so I'm using it, so this changes my life, but then more of a compliance. My bosses said that I have to use it, so I'm using it. And so that has certain value, but not the optimum value. So if and the perceived cost. sometimes cost is not as high as people perceive. So there is, we call that a kind of charges, but that's a one-time charges, not cash in and cash out. That's a once charges, and only for cash out. But the perception sometimes works like that. Oh, they charge both way. So, and then another thing maybe can be looked at, if we look at the volume, the impact of the volume, and if the cooperating organizations together think that by taking this initiative, we are saving quite a lot of money, or we are increasing the bottom line, in that case, we can stop transferring charges, the small charges to the customers. So then customer can have a free service proposition. What Madam was talking about at the beginning, the better utilization of the money. Because with this individual savings, with individual transactions and all this, there is a float money. A lot of the float money comes into the control. Now the question is, by the regulation, are the DFS allowed to use that money alternatively, or they just have to keep it intact as it is?
There is a regulation. Trust.
So if they can utilize that money, and there would be much more benefit than this 1 cent, 2 cent charges. And that benefit can be kept by the organizations, and sometimes some of it can be transferred to the end users. So by that, a new operator can be more successful, or even existing operator can be more successful. So for successful operator,
correct করা যায় না হলে misinformed হচ্ছে এখানে কিন্তু প্রতিদিনের উপরে ইন্টারেস্ট দিয়ে দিচ্ছে এই সিস্টেম। আপনি যেটা বলছেন বেনিফিট হচ্ছে, কিন্তু আপনি যদি টাকা রেখে দিচ্ছেন আপনার ওয়ালেটে।
Yes, some of them have introduced that, but that's not the market competitive. What Madam was saying, because individual user is not capable of using the big money, but the banks are. So they know how to make more money out of it. So if they can make more money out of it, and they can provide little more than what they get as interest. So there's a different value proposition altogether. So that's how things can be even more rewarding for everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Shakot. We are mindful of the traffic today. People like to go.
Just একটা কথা বলছি, এটা মাইক্রো, মেজো, ম্যাক্রো ইকোনমিতে বিরাট ইম্প্যাক্ট। এবং একটা মানে দুবার ব্যবহার হচ্ছে। So it is a tremendous effect.
No, definitely. Hopefully, this is a continuing discussion, and BIGD is very excited to be part of this conversation. Thank you, Sania, for coming today, and to all the panelists and Kim for organizing. This is a critical juncture, of course. Access to financial resources is a driver, has always been a driver of inequalities within communities and within households. And we have a great opportunity at the moment to change things, and also at risk of reinforcing gender gaps, for instance, that will really be a setback for development in general. So this is a very exciting time, and we are very excited to be part of this conversation, and we want to take this forward. And as Kim had mentioned, we do have an international conference coming up on this topic in June. So please stay tuned, and thank you everyone for coming today. I know that it's a very difficult day. The traffic is very bad today, and sorry for going over time, but I think it was well worth it, the discussion. So thank you very much. There's tea and snacks outside, please.
Thank you. Send the slides.
And all the slides to. Are we? Yeah, you share a version with you that